Welcome back, students. Standard 10 Science and Technology Part 2, the third module of Life Process in Living Organisms, Part 1. Let us recollect what we have learned in our previous module. We have started with citric acid cycle. Citric acid cycle is otherwise called as TCA cycle, that is tricarboxylic acid cycle, where the molecules of acetyl-CoA after entering mitochondria undergo a cyclic process and the molecules of carbon dioxide, water, NADH2 and FADH2 are arrived. Then we have learned about electron transfer reaction where the molecules of NADH2 and FADH2 formed from TCA cycle undergo many processes, that is a transfer chain, and obtained 3 molecules of ATP from NADH2 and 2 molecules of ATP from FADH2 besides water molecule. This is operated in mitochondria only. Then we have learned about aerobic respiration. Aerobic respiration is a complete oxidation of a glucose in the presence of oxygen. Then we have learned about anaerobic respiration, where some organisms which cannot live with the presence of oxygen have to perform this type of respiration for energy production. So we will continue further with the chapter. In today's lecture, we will be learning how energy can be derived from different food components. So we know how digestion takes place and how it is getting absorbed by the small intestine, transferred into blood, we get glucose, it is oxidized, all these things we know. There are other components from which energy can be obtained. This happens when we don't eat food. Suppose we are in fasting, our body functions. How do we get energy? So we'll see one by one. The first one is, if there is excess amount of carbohydrates, they will be stored in liver and muscles in the form of glycogen. What is a glycogen? It is a multi-branched polysaccharide made up of glucose. So poly means many. Polysaccharide of glucose that serves as a form of energy. This storage is found in animals, fungi as well as bacteria. The polysaccharide structure is the main storage form of glucose in the body. You can see this is a glycogen structure. Every single unit is a glucose. They are linked with each other. They form a very big chain. So whenever there is a need of energy, if we didn't eat food, so this is where your body start getting energy from. Now we are going to see an important component of every living thing, proteins. What is the source of protein? What are they made up of? Proteins are macromolecules formed by bonding together many amino acids. What are these amino acids? We will see later. So the proteins of animal origin are called as first class proteins. If we are digesting a gram of protein, we'll get 4 kilocalories of energy. The amino acids are obtained after digestion of proteins, and these amino acids are absorbed in the body. They will be transported up to each organ and cell through blood. Then from the amino acids, the cells will produce various type of proteins necessary for themselves. A question may arise, if protein is what needed for the body, why it has to be digested into amino acids, then the amino acids are carried to the cells, why it has to be rebuilt to a protein again? We have to understand the fact that the protein supplemented via food is not the same type of protein that a body needs for its functioning. So the protein as a supplement has to be digested or separated as amino acids. Then it has to be rebuilt according to the need of the functioning of body. Now we will see what are amino acids. There are 500 naturally occurring amino acids are known to human, out of which only 20 are present in genetic code. These 20 play a vital role in growth and development of every living thing. So they contain a carboxylic acid group and an amino group. So together they are present in amino acid, hence it is named as amino acid. They form the building blocks of proteins. That is, they make up 75% of the body. I mean, the proteins make up 75% of the body. Can you believe this? They are involved in almost every body function, including growth, development, healing of wounds, repairing the wound, digestion, providing energy. For all these purposes, we need proteins. Proteins are not associated only with the growth of a living thing, but and also it is function of a living thing depends on various type of proteins. As we have seen earlier, proteins, the enzymes, the hormone secretors are also types of proteins. As you can see the picture, this is the general structure of amino acid. So it has an amine group. It is NH2 is called amino group, and COOH, this group is called a carboxyl group, and this R can be substituted by many organic compounds that we will see later. So this is a general structure of amino acid. Alright, we have learned about amino acids. Now we will see how do they make up a protein. We'll see in detail about a protein structure. Protein structure is a three-dimensional arrangement of atoms in an amino acid chain molecule. They range in size from 10 amino acids to several thousand amino acids. Mainly, there are four different levels in protein structure. First is the primary, then the secondary, then the tertiary, and finally the quaternary structure. All these structures are linked via peptide bonding. We'll see what is meant by peptide bonding later. As you can see, the structure of proteins, initially the amino acids, if you see the each oval shape you are seeing here is an amino acid. Each amino acid will be linked with each other with a peptide bond. This forms a primary structure of the protein. Then the secondary structure, it will be twisted and turned. Actually, secondary structure will consist of two types of chain. One is called alpha helix. You can see the spiral shape. Because of the shape, it is called helix. Then the second is a beta sheet. You will see somewhat sheet-like structure in this. So both of them will make up the secondary structure. In the tertiary structure, you can see the alpha helix and beta sheet are attached via certain bonds. So this helps in winding up or making the structure of a protein. Then finally quaternary structure, where many alpha helix and beta sheets, their combinations will be bonded, and finally they will form a three-dimensional structure. This is the final structure of protein. We know that the functioning of the protein depends mainly on its structure. Let us see a protein structure, 3D structure of a protein. You can see the alpha helix, you can see the beta sheets. Okay, they are all bonded together and finally they will make up a structure of a protein. This structure of protein is very, very important in functioning of it. Because of this structure only, it will be binding with the many molecules, or it will be converting one substance to the other. All is possible because of the protein structure. We have seen that amino acids are linked via peptide bonding. We will see what is it. A peptide bond is a chemical bond formed between two molecules when a carboxyl group of one reacts with the amino group of the other, releasing a molecule of water. You can see in the image a carboxyl group. This is an amino acid serine and this is an amino acid valine. You can see how they are combining. So the carboxyl group from this amino acid links with, you can see the amino group of this amino acid, and finally they will release a water molecule. This type of bonding is called peptide bonding. This is what is seen in all amino acids in a protein chain. Now we are going to see what are the proteins and different amino acids which are present in the living organisms. First one is about skin. In skin, it is present in the form of melanin and keratin. Then in bones as a protein called ausin. Ausin is a bone protein. In the cells, the proteins are makes up the cell membrane, and different enzymes are all forms of proteins. In pancreas, the hormone insulin and trypsin are also forms of protein. They are secreted by pancreas. Then in the pituitary gland, we know it is a master gland. It secretes various types of hormones. All are types of proteins. Then also in muscles as actin and myosin, which are otherwise called as flexible proteins, that helps in stretching and contracting of muscles. All these are forms of proteins found in body. There are some points to be remembered regarding protein. The excess of amino acids obtained from proteins cannot be stored in the body. They will be broken down and the ammonia formed is eliminated out of the body in urine. If necessary, the excess of proteins can be converted into other useful substances like glucose through the process called gluconeogenesis. It is a metabolic pathway to generate glucose from non-carbohydrate substances like proteins and lipids. This especially happens during fasting. Then the plants produce the necessary amino acids from the minerals from a process called de novo process, and thereby they produce different types of proteins. De novo synthesis, it refers to the synthesis of complex molecules from simple molecules. Then an enzyme called rubisco, which is present in plant chloroplast, is the most abundant protein found in nature. You can see the structure of rubisco. Rubisco is a common name. The full name is, it is ribulose 1,5 bisphosphate carboxylase or oxygenase. This is the most abundant type of protein present in the earth. The next important component we are going to see is lipids. What are lipids? From where do we obtain the lipids? The substances formed by the chemical bonding between fatty acids and alcohol are called lipids. The lipids that we consume will be converted again into fatty acids and alcohol inside the body. Fats can be majorly classified into two important types, that is saturated fat and unsaturated fat. In 9th standard, you have learned about saturated and unsaturated carbon compounds. In unsaturated, you will see there will be a double bond linkage and triple bond linkage between carbon, where saturated will have only single bond. Actually, when you see the saturated fats, as you can see where we are obtaining from saturated fats, they are not good for health. Whereas the unsaturated fats, which are thicker, are very good for health. The reason is the saturated fats somehow will find its way, as they are thinner, will find its way to enter the blood cells and will start depositing inside the blood cells. So it is very harmful, as there are chances that they will restrict the blood flow. Whereas unsaturated fatty acids, as they are thicker in size, they cannot do that. So it is always advised to increase unsaturated fats in the food than saturated fats. The fatty acids that are absorbed up are distributed everywhere within the body. From these fatty acids, the different cells will produce different types of substances necessary for their functioning. For example, a molecule called phospholipids. These are essential for producing plasma membrane, and these we get from fatty acids. You can see this is a phospholipid. You can see the plasma membrane here. They are all made up of phospholipids. So they are hydrophilic and hydrophobic in nature. Hydrophilic part is there in the head. It means that it will be attracted towards water, and hydrophobic tail, it means that they will not be attracted towards water. So this is a main component in a cell, and this is produced using lipids, that is fatty acids. Then Besides this, the fatty acids can be used for producing hormones like progesterone, estrogen, testosterone, aldosterone, etc. And the covering around the axons of nerve cells. Hopefully, you will all of you remember nerve cells, and this is the axon. The covering of the axon, they are also made up of fatty acids. When we digest a gram of lipid, we'll get 9 kilocalories of energy. It gives high energy. The excess lipids will be stored in adipose tissue. We know that adipose is a connective tissue. We can say it is a fat layer. The excess lipids will be stored in it and used whenever needed. Let us think why many a times we cannot eat a hard food due to inflammation, or we can say mouth ulcer. And you might have seen some persons, they are experiencing difficulty in night vision since their childhood or adolescence. Why does this happen? These complications arise due to the deficiency of vitamins. Vitamins are a group of heterogeneous compounds essential for the proper functioning of body. There are six main types of vitamins: vitamin A, B, C, D, E and vitamin K. Out of this, vitamins A, D, E and K are fat soluble, whereas vitamin B and C are water soluble. We are going to learn more about these vitamins one by one. First, we are going to see about vitamin A. It is otherwise called as retinol or carotenoid. It is a fat-soluble vitamin. The sources of vitamin A are orange, ripe yellow fruits, leafy vegetables, carrots, pumpkin, squash, spinach. All yellow-orange color foods are rich in vitamin A. They help in maintaining healthy teeth, skeletal and soft tissues, mucous membrane, and in formation of skin. They produce the pigment, that is the color of the retina is due to vitamin A. They promote good eyesight, especially in low light. Deficiency of vitamin A leads to various conditions. The first one is night blindness. It is an inability to see in low light. You can see the condition of the eye before and after night blindness. The second is hyperkeratosis. It is thickening of the skin, especially in the foot. Wherever the skin is already thick, it will lead to more thickening of the skin. Then a condition called keratomalacia. It is drying and clouding of the cornea. It will hinder the eyesight. All these are happens due to deficiency in vitamin A. Unlike other vitamins, vitamin B is available in various forms. We'll see them one by one. The first one is vitamin B1, which is otherwise called as thiamine. The source of vitamin B1 are pork, wholemeal grains, brown rice, vegetables, potatoes, livers and eggs. They are responsible for the functioning of muscle contraction, conducting nerve signals and metabolism of pyruvate. The deficiency of thiamine leads to a disease called beriberi and Wernicke-Korsakoff syndrome. Beriberi, what is beriberi? It is a weakness in pains in limbs and it affects heart and circulatory system. You can see thiamine deficiency leads to weakening of muscles and heart. The second is B2 or riboflavin. It is present in dairy products, bananas, green beans, and also asparagus. They help in converting the carbohydrate into ATP and also they produce FADH2. The deficiency of riboflavin leads to a condition called arboflavinosis. What is arboflavinosis? Arboflavinosis is nothing but sores in mouth. You can see the mouth, it contains so much of sore, a wound like thing, and there will be bleeding also. This arises due to deficiency of vitamin B2. The next one is vitamin B3, which is called as niacin or nicotinamide, which is present in meat, fish, eggs, and many vegetables, mushrooms, and tree nuts. They help in the functioning of nerves and helps to lower cholesterol and ease arthritis. Arthritis is knee pain, severe knee pain, and it also boosts brain function. The deficiency of vitamin B3 leads to a condition called pellagra. Pellagra is an inflamed skin. Okay, the skin will be, you can see the inflammation of the skin. You can see the spots here. inflammation of the skin, it will lead to diarrhea and it will lead to soreness in mouth. All are associated with vitamin B3 deficiency. The next is vitamin B5, otherwise called as pantothenic acid, which is present abundantly in meat, broccoli, and avocados. They are mainly used in synthesis of coenzyme A and they produce NADH2. The deficiency of vitamin B5 leads to a condition called paresthesia. Paresthesia, we will have some burning or prickling sensation felt in hands, arms, legs, feet, etc. If we are sitting in a place for a longer time, sometimes we will see it is otherwise called as pins and needles sensation. This is due to the deficiency of vitamin B5, that is pantothenic acid. The next we are going to see is about vitamin B6, that is pyridoxine, present in meat, vegetables, tree nuts and bananas. The function of pyridoxine is to make hemoglobin, antibodies and amino acids. The deficiency leads to anemia and a condition called peripheral neuropathy. Peripheral neuropathy is a damage we see in peripheral nerves. We know that peripheral nerves connects brain, spinal cord with all the other organs. So these are the symptoms of peripheral neuropathy. Then vitamin B7 called as biotin. It is present in raw egg yolk, liver, peanuts, leafy green vegetables. They help in converting carbohydrate into ATP. Deficiency of vitamin B7 leads to a condition called dermatitis. So you can see dermatitis. Dermatitis, the skin looks dry. It will be swollen and sometimes redness will be there. Then one more condition called enteritis. Enteritis is an inflammation in small intestine. You can compare the normal cells in the small intestine and an inflamed one. This arises due to vitamin B7 deficiency. The next one is B9, folic acid. It is one important amino acid, folic acid, which is present in leafy vegetables, pasta, bread, cereal, liver, etc. They help in making and repairing our DNA and produce red blood cells. The deficiency of B9 leads to a condition called megaloblastic anemia. What is megaloblastic anemia? See, during the formation of RBC, that is red blood cells, there will be inhibition in DNA synthesis. If the DNA is not produced, the production of this RBC will not be proper. You can see the size variation. If there is variation in size, it hinders the functioning of RBC as well. This especially arises during pregnancy. So vitamin B9 is one of the main vitamin needed for the growth of a healthy fetus. Then the next one is vitamin B12, otherwise called as cyanocobalamin, which is present in meat, poultry, fish, eggs, milk, etc. They help in the functioning of nervous tissue, brain function, and also in the production of red blood cells. The deficiency leads to anemia. You can see the normal blood cells and anemic blood cells where there is high reduction of RBC. This arises due to deficiency in vitamin B12. Now we are going to learn about vitamin C, otherwise called as ascorbic acid. It is a water soluble vitamin and this is the one that is needed in high amount, that is we need 75 to 90 milligrams daily. The source of vitamin C, as you can see, citrus fruits especially are rich in vitamin C. The deficiency of vitamin C leads to a condition called scurvy. What is scurvy? You can see scurvy is a condition where there will be inflammation in the gums and bleeding in the gums. It may lead to loss of teeth also. So this is a condition scurvy. Then what are the functions of vitamin C? Vitamin C is very important to develop immunity. They form connective tissues and absorb iron from diet. They promote a healing of wound and also they act as antioxidants. Vitamin D, it is otherwise called as cholecalciferol or ergocalciferol. Source of vitamin D is eggs, liver, certain fish species such as sardines and certain mushroom species such as shiitake mushrooms. The functions of vitamin D is absorbing calcium and also building bones. Deficiency will lead to a condition called rickets and osteomalacia. Rickets, you can see the bone gets weaker and there is change in shape of bones. This condition is called rickets. Osteomalacia is the thinning of the bones. You can see the density of the bone cells in normal bones and in osteomalacia where the bone will become more porous and prone to breakage easily. So this is a condition arises due to deficiency of vitamin D. Vitamin E, which is called as tocopherol, the source of vitamin E is fruits, vegetables, especially nuts and seed oils. The function of vitamin C, it acts as an antioxidant and help to protect cells from damage, and also they are said to boost immunity. Deficiency of vitamin E may lead to muscle and nerve damage and also weakness in muscle, and also it creates vision problems. The last in vitamin series is vitamin K, otherwise called as phyloquinone. The source of vitamin K are leafy green vegetables such as spinach, egg yolks and also liver. The function of vitamin K is helps very much in blood clotting. Whenever there is a cut and there is a blood flow, vitamin K helps in clotting of the blood. It is also involved in electron transport chain. Deficiency of vitamin K leads to a condition called bleeding diathesis. You can see in the picture, bleeding diathesis is bleeding due to irregular or slow clotting. Sometimes it leads to thinning of the skin and the skin will become weaker, and even a small wound will develop a lot of bleeding. So this condition arises due to deficiency of vitamin K. Children, it is now time to learn what is meant by a coenzyme. They are substances that enhances the action of an enzyme. They are small molecules and cannot catalyze any chemical reaction, but they can help the enzymes to do so. Technically, coenzymes are organic non-protein molecules. They bind with protein molecule and they activate that protein molecule. A number of vitamins we have seen so far, they serve as coenzymes. We'll see how. You can see this is called an apoenzyme. Apoenzyme is an enzyme with only the protein portion. And here comes the coenzyme. First it will go and bind with this apoenzyme. Together they will form the holoenzyme, where now this whole enzyme is active. You can see the substrate with a specific shape coming and binding with this enzyme. Now you can realize that without the involvement of coenzyme, it is impossible for this enzyme to activate the substrate, that is to convert the substrate into any other compound. So hence coenzymes play an important role in activating the enzymes. Each vitamin is needed in a specific quantity. You can see this with the table given. This is the recommended dietary allowance of vitamins per day. Apart from the things we have seen, there are more molecules helps in the proper functioning of the body, like water and fiber. There is about 65 to 70% water in our body, and each cell contains 70% of its weight by water. The blood plasma also contains 90% of water. You can assume it from its fluidity. The functioning of the cells thereby disturbs even if there is a little loss of water from the body. Apart from water, fibers are also essential nutrient, but we cannot digest the fiber. They help in the digestion of other substances and egestion of undigested. Egestion means removal of undigested substances. The fibers can be obtained from leafy vegetables, fruits, cereals, etc. We are going to see some full forms of the abbreviations used in this chapter. First is FAD. FAD means flavin adenine dinucleotide. This is structure of FAD. Second is FMN, which is flavin mononucleotide. This is the structure of FMN. NAD stands for nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide. This is the structure of NAD. Then NADP means nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide with phosphate, and this is NADP. Now it is time to summarize whatever we have learned in this module. First, we have learned that energy can be obtained from different food components like glycogen, etc. We have seen about proteins. Proteins are components that are made up of amino acids. Then we have seen about the protein structure. It consists of four divisions, you can say, that is primary, secondary, tertiary and quaternary structure. The protein structure is possible by the peptide bonding between the amino acids. Peptide bonding is the linkage between the carboxylic and amino group with the removal of water. Then we have seen about lipids, how do they help in formation of energy. Then we have seen about various types of vitamins starting from vitamin A to vitamin K, their source, their functions and the deficiency, etc. We have also learned what is meant by a coenzyme, and we have also learned the importance of water and fiber in our diet. There is more to learn from this chapter, and we will see the continuation in our next module, children. Thank you so much.